that. That's magic right there. Welcome, everyone. Oh, it's so great to see you all here. Hopefully you're getting settled. I see a couple of other people have still joined us. Hello to Lucy T, who's coming on. In a moment, we're going to have that formal introduction from our wonderful moderator. But first, I have a question for you. Why are you here? No, seriously, what captured your interest in this session? Are you in sales or a client-facing role for work where you regularly meet people and want to make a good first impression? Or were you interested to hear what I had to say about connecting with others? Or did you not care about the topics on the other two sessions? So process of elimination, here you are. I know that you could be doing a million other things today. It's Saturday and it's starting to warm up outside. It's almost lunchtime, we're getting hungry. The garden might be calling, or the to-do list, or oh my gosh, the kids might be screaming at each other. But here you are, investing in your development, placing importance on your personal growth, and I admire that. I love connecting with like-minded people, and you are my people. So thank you for being here with me today. Okay, are you feeling settled? All right, let's do this. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Now we can focus on our conversation today. I am going to talk about the power of the first impression, those first valuable seconds of meeting someone. Maybe you thought of someone that you impress or need to impress or want to impress. Maybe you're going for that next job interview or promotion. Whatever the case is, listen carefully during my 20-minute segment while I talk about I'm going to share 3 powerful, proven elements for creating a positive first impression. And if you think of questions during that time, we'll have some time for those at the end. Okay, are you ready? I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for today, Srikanth Reddy.
Thank you, Molly. Welcome everybody to this education session with Molly Ketcham on connecting to a first impression. As your meeting moderator, I will introduce the presenter, establish the guidelines, time the presentation, and ask for your evaluation of the presentation towards the end of this session. To keep the meeting on time, here are the guidelines. During the presentation, your audio will be muted and the chat box will be disabled between participants. However, you can still chat with the host and co-host in the room. Please keep your video on unless there is movement in the background. There will be time for Q&A. Please write down your questions. Regarding consent, your continued attendance in this education session will be deemed as implied consent to video and audio recording. Without further delay, let's welcome our presenter. Molly Ketcham joined Toastmasters in 2017. Throughout 20 years in her hospitality industry, she built strong relationships with clients and colleagues. Increasing her influence and impact, Molly has become a subject matter expert on the topic of connecting with others and leaving a lasting impression. The first impression can make or break relationships. A positive first impression leaves someone thinking, quote, I want to spend time with you, unquote. A negative one leaves them calculating their escape. How effective is your first impression? How effective is your first impression? In today's presentation, Molly Ketcham will share what you can do within the first few seconds of meeting that leaves someone wanting more. Please help me welcome Molly Ketcham.
First impressions. First impressions are fast, but long-lasting. A first impression is the quick judgment that's created as soon as you meet someone. But that feeling or that opinion about someone lingers. In fact, can you recall observing a negative first impression? It stays with you, doesn't it? Maybe you met someone for the first time and they had food in their teeth, or they were wearing something you thought was inappropriate, or they came on too strong. Or how about in this online world? Maybe you met someone on a video call and you couldn't see their face, or they're carrying you around trying to get comfortable and their screen is bouncing around. Now let me ask you, when you observed that negative first impression, how did you feel? I know that if I observe a negative first impression and I don't need to maintain a relationship with that person, then I don't. I move on, right? So now let me turn the tables around and ask, have you ever inadvertently created a negative first impression? And I say inadvertently because we don't wake up in the morning intending to create a negative first impression, right? Especially when we're young and inexperienced, this happens, doesn't it? I mean, I will admit, I walked out of a public restroom to meet someone and had toilet paper on my shoe. And that was just last Saturday. But here's the thing. We really have to pay attention to that first impression, because it's so powerful that if someone decides in the first few seconds that they don't like you and they don't need to maintain that relationship, it's over, right? But if they do decide that they like you and they trust you in those first few seconds, you can make a mistake down the road, you can mess up, and the person dismisses it. If they've already decided that they like you, they'll overlook those mistakes. So are you aware of the kind of first impression that you are creating? When I teach self-awareness to groups, we explore this in depth, because self-awareness is not just understanding yourself, it's understanding how others perceive you. When you have that heightened awareness, you can manage your interactions better and capitalize on the connections. And now what I mean by connecting with others is sharing an interest or an experience. It's recognizing the commonality between you and another person. It's also the energy exchange that occurs when people are paying attention to one another. Can you think of one of those moments when you really felt like you connected with someone? It feels good, doesn't it? It has the power to deepen our trust in someone, and it has a power to deepen our trust, and it fills that need that we have to feel belonging, that basic human emotional need. All right, so who else has been craving connection lately? I'm seeing some hands. Yes, the pandemic has been rough on us, right? So for me, I've started to really feel it about the end of last summer. We'd been in quarantine for several months. So what I did was I reached out to some acquaintances, because I love a good getting to know you conversation. I brought coffee over to their house. We sat outside 6 feet apart and we talked. And after about a handful of these coffee dates, I was hearing similar comments from my new friends. They said things like, "I really enjoyed talking with you," or "That was a great conversation. Please, can we do it again soon?" Oddly enough, this sounded very similar to messages that I've been receiving from at work lately. From my manager and my teammates, they were saying things like, "It's so great to have a one-on-one meeting with you because the conversation is interesting and meaningful, not just transactional." Or I appreciate when you're part of our group project or discussion because you bring this positive energy and interesting talking points to the conversation. And then most recently, a Toastmaster pointed out to me that our club has been very successful under my leadership, and that I open and close each meeting with this positive energy and remind everybody that we're all in this together, right? Building that sense of community and expressing the connection. I've been club president for 2 years, so I've helped move the club from meeting online to now meeting in person to now meeting online. And we have more members now than I believe the club has ever seen before. Okay, so I'm seeing this theme across all different areas of my life. And it caused me to reflect on what is it that I do and that I think during an interaction that leaves people feeling this way. I picked out all the important parts that I believe really make a difference that most people don't do. And then I took all that information and I broke it down into 3 segments because, my friends, it takes longer than 20 minutes. The first segment is that first impression, because if you don't create a positive first impression, you're going nowhere fast in this interaction or this conversation, right? The second part is going deeper in your understanding and bringing awareness to the connection. And the last part is how you conclude or leave an interaction on this positive note that helps people feel good about themselves and thinking highly of you. So what we're talking about today is the first impression, okay? That first, and we're only talking about 3 to 7 seconds here, right? So I have 3 points for you in a matter of 3 to 7 seconds, but I promise you they make a big difference. So in a moment, we're going to launch a poll, but first, a little background information. Albert Mehrabian is a professor emeritus of psychology, and in 1967, he conducted a study that demonstrated the importance of nonverbal communication. In it, and his results are still used today, so that's why we're still talking about it. In the study, he identified 3 factors that help us decide if we like or dislike someone upon meeting them. Those 3 factors are the words we say, how we say them, or our tone of voice, and our nonverbal behavior, or the visual aspect of a first impression. So let's take a vote. What percent, and we'll launch the poll, what percent do you think are the words that you say? I know Dan's getting the poll going. There we go. What percent do you think the words that you say make up a first impression? And again, I'll give you 10 more seconds. This is a quick one. But those 3 things are the words we say, how we say them, and our nonverbal communication, or the visual aspect of a first impression. So let's close the poll and share the results and see what everybody had to say. This might be okay. Oh, can we share the results? There we go. Hey, look at that. The majority of you said 7%, and you are correct. Only 7%. Can you believe that? Only 7% of a first impression is the words that come out of your mouth. That's such a small percent, right? How about the tone of voice? The tone of voice is 38% of a first impression. Okay, and for those of you who are doing the math in your head right now, yes, 55% of a first impression is visual. It's all about what you are wearing, what you look like, and what you're saying with your body language. So that's pretty powerful. In fact, let's take a look right now. I know that I am pinned on speaker view, but in the top right corner, for those of you who are sharing your screen or who want to come on just to do this little exercise, switch your view to gallery view. So in the top right corner, switch your view to gallery view, and then take a look at your little box, your image in your little rectangle. Can you see your eyes? Are you dressed appropriately for this event? Do you have any activity going on in your background? These are all important things because the majority of what people see when they log on to a call is making up that first impression of you. Okay, switch me back over to speaker view because I worked really hard on my lighting and my attire to impress you today. Okay, so please keep this in mind and know that here's a little tip for you. You can log on, open up your camera application on your computer, or open a Zoom meeting launch one just for yourself, and take a look at what you look like before logging onto a video call, right? It is no different than checking your teeth for food or your shoes for toilet paper before meeting someone. All right, so that's what I have to say about the visual aspect. But those statistics are pretty powerful, aren't they? 55%. So we're going to talk about how we can use this information to create that positive first impression. Earlier, I talked about connecting with others. So what do you think? Can you connect with someone in just a few seconds? That first few seconds of meeting them? I believe that if the energy is similar between two people, or the situation is right, or the awareness is high enough, then yes, you can. But at the very least, a positive first impression opens the door for establishing that connection, for finding it and bringing awareness to it. So, would you like to learn how to create such a positive first impression that it's inviting? It says, I am a trustworthy person with your best interests. Come on in whenever you're ready. Because not everyone's going to connect with you right away, right? Those people with different cultural backgrounds or personalities or beliefs may react more cautiously to you. But if that first impression is approachable and inviting, you can create and build a successful relationship with them. All right, so are you ready? If you're ready, say, I'm ready. I can't hear you, but I can feel your energy.
I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. 3 steps for creating those positive first impressions. The first thing that needs to happen should happen before you even open your mouth. And that is to shift into a positive mindset. People enjoy being around those who are generally happy and friendly and enjoying life, but we aren't happy every moment of the day, right? Raise a hand who here experiences stress and anxiety or frustration. Yes, I see lots of hands. We all have those moments when we are throwing our hands up in the air out of frustration. So what happens, what do we do when we're in one of those moments right before we meet someone or we have an important call? Here's something that I have done for years. So I'm giving you my secret technique here. Think of something that brings you joy. Visualize a positive memory, a happy memory. Go to your happy place. Then feel it, because that's a very important part. And then after you feel it, notify your face. Smile. A happy face is generally judged as more trustworthy. Okay? But in order to get that genuine smile on your face, you have to feel the happiness. You have to feel the joy. I have a photo of my son when he was just learning how to walk. And he is taking this stumbling step toward me. So excited that he is learning how to do this. Just pure bliss written all over his face. And every time I look at it, I smile. Oh my gosh, I am like transported back to that moment when he is like walking toward me. And yes, I captured it and I think he fell. But you know what? That's the kind of mom that I've always been. He fell a lot. But look at that face. I can't resist. So this picture sat next to my computer at work for years because I had a very stressful job. But every time I looked at it, it made me smile. So how about you? Do you have a photo that you can use? Something that you can, a tool that can transport you to that moment that brings you joy? You could also think about the most pleasant feature of the person you're getting ready to meet. That puts you in a good frame of mind. You could smile into a mirror. That's an old sales trick for those of you who are in the sales industry. Whatever it is that gets you into that place, but smile. And here's one last tip that I have in terms of a positive mindset. If you're in the middle of that chaos and you need to shift quickly, take that deep breath. We did it earlier today. It only takes a few seconds, but it relaxes you and it makes it much easier to shift into that positive frame of mind. Okay, so this is the most important one of the three, because if a first impression, 93% of a first impression is all like visual and your tone of voice and it needs to be positive, then it all starts right here with your mindset. All right, the second thing that you need to do, this is proven, I'm telling you, I've done it for years, it works. Ask a question. Ask the person a question. Do you know what everyone's favorite subject is? It's themselves. We all love to talk about ourselves. It's all about us, right? So if you want to make a positive first impression, the first words out of your mouth need to be a question about the other person. How are you doing today? What's going on in your world today? What did I catch you in the middle of? That's actually my favorite question to ask someone if I am calling them out of the blue. Because if they are feeling comfortable enough to share it with me, what I caught them in the middle of, perhaps it's something that's even personal, then we have an opportunity to connect. So 2 in 1 right there, right? Like kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So ask a question. Put yourself in their shoes. Teddy Roosevelt said it 100 years ago, and it's so true, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So put yourself in their shoes. What's going on in their world? Did you catch them right before lunch? Their stomach's probably hungry. Did you catch them at the end of the day? What's going on in their industry? Put yourself in their shoes. And I have one other tip for you along the lines of this asking a question and putting the emphasis on them. And that is that you can help someone relax into a conversation by establishing or reiterating the length of time for the meeting. If you called someone out of the blue, always say, hey, do you have 15 minutes to chat about this, or do you have 5 minutes to talk about this? Then the person knows how long you want to keep them on the phone. Let's say you already have 30 minutes on the calendar with John. So you get on the meeting with John. John, we have 30 minutes on the calendar. I want to cover A, B, and C. Now John knows that you're going to let him out of the meeting in 30 minutes and he can move on to his next meeting or the next thing on his to-do list. But it takes it out of the back of their head so that they can focus on you and the conversation. So again, this point is all about putting the emphasis on the other person. All right, so now we're in a positive mindset. We're feeling good. We got the other person to start talking about themselves. The last tip is to focus then on the conversation. It seems like such a simple concept, right? To pay attention. But our world is filled with distractions right now, isn't it? I mean, it's so easy to get distracted. So how do you focus? It might depend on the type of meeting. If you're meeting in person or online, you have eye contact, and you can make eye contact, might help you focus. You can nod your head that you're paying attention to what someone's saying. If you're on the phone and you don't have the visual component, I know some people will doodle to focus. I wander aimlessly around my house. That's how I focus. I don't know why, but if I can do that, I can totally pay attention to what someone is saying to me. So whatever it is, but I know that I have to look away from my computer because the distractions on the email popping up and the instant messages, oh my gosh. So I have to look away to focus on what someone is really saying, or close the applications if you have that video call with somebody. Also be aware of background noises. I promise you people can hear what is going on in your background. I used to manage a team of remote employees. We all worked from home, and we had weekly one-on-one phone calls. So as I mentioned, I would stand up and I'd wander around my house, but almost always I first went to the refrigerator and filled my water glass. It dispenses from the refrigerator. After about 3 or 4 meetings with a new direct report, she said to me, "What is that sound?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just filling my water glass from the refrigerator." She goes, "It sounds like you're going to the bathroom." Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how she felt the first few times before she asked what was going on, and then to anybody else who I might have done that to? Oh my, I did not intend to create that impression. Right? So be aware of your background noise, eliminate your distractions, and focus. Pay attention. Let people know that you're hearing what they're saying. All right, now, these are my 3 tips for you, and I'm going to leave them right here because I have a question for you. It's like the memory game, but the question is, and I'm going to ask for your answers in the chat. What did I do at the very beginning of our call to demonstrate a positive first impression? What were some of, and this was in the opening before before the moderator started his introduction. What did I do during that time? And it's like the memory game, because you really have to think. Who can think back to that? I greeted everybody by their name. You know, not only is the person's favorite subject themselves, but a person's favorite sound is their name. So yes, absolutely. I welcomed each person. I interacted with you, talked about backgrounds, encouraging you to turn on your videos and saying hello and welcoming. What about after we did all the welcome? And then I went in and I started to share a little bit of information with you. Do you remember what I did and what I said when I was sharing that information? And I know I smiled. And here are your hints. Positive mindset, ask a question. If I knew that I said something I had in common, yes, the commonality or the connection that we have with everybody, yes. How about, I gave reasons. Yes, I get reasons why you might be here. So I put myself in your shoes and I thought, why are you here? What are some of the reasons you might be here? What else did I do? Who can think back? You're going to get, like, if I had candy, I'd throw it to you. But, you know, yes, Preeti, you can come off mute and share.
You mentioned the importance of first impression in the sense that if later on you do make mistakes, people will forgive you faster because the impression was good initially.
Yes, I did. And that's what I was trying to do at the very beginning, was help you like me and trust me so that if I messed up in my presentation, you would forgive me. I asked for for feedback. Why first impressions create future forgiveness. Yes. How about, did I ask you a question? I asked you why you were here, so I got you engaged thinking that way. I was definitely in a positive mindset. We took a deep breath together so that we could focus on the conversation. I paid attention to you. You were all paying attention to me, so thank you for that. Those are some of the things that I did to help create a positive first impression. Hopefully I was successful. All right, awesome. Very good. So let me wrap up because I know we have some time. We'll have some time for questions. Let me ask, can you do these things to create a positive first impression? Again, it all starts, thank you for the thumbs up. It all starts with that positive mindset. And then can you ask a question, get them talking about themselves? Especially if you're in that networking situation, just learn all about them. Doesn't matter about you. You want to have them start talking about themselves. And then lastly, can you pay attention? Can you pay attention to what they're saying, increase that awareness of their body language, their tone of voice, and their situation and what's going on with them? Of course you can, yes. All right, so just remember, the next time you go to meet someone, check your mindset, check your smile, and check your shoes. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. We now have time to open it up for some questions. Please use the reactions button below in your Zoom toolbar to raise your hand or post a question in the chat directly to me, Zoom host Dan Minder, in the chat.
This is that awkward silence moment when everybody's either typing it in or they're thinking, yeah, what did I really want to ask her? Or I don't have any questions because she answered all my questions. Oh, Preeti, thank you.
My question is, when you're starting to form the idea of first impression, how do you balance the need to create an image versus being yourself? Like, how do you balance that thing, that not to be too fake about it and still be nice?
I see what you're saying, and that's a really good question. Because if we know that everybody loves happy people, then why not just try to pretend to be happy? Is that what you're saying? That's a really good question. And I think it goes back to that very first point. If you can think of something that brings you joy, and you're in that, when you think about those moments when you are happiest, right? You are being your authentic self, right? You're not trying to please anybody. You're just happy. Has anybody ever had one of those moments where they were laughing with a friend that they almost peed their pants? Okay, or peed their pants. I know it happens, right? Okay, think about you don't care how silly you look, that you're laughing hysterically. You are just feeling good. Okay, so use that just as an example to think, that is my authentic self. So how can I just be myself in those moments? And for me, it's thinking about something that brings me joy. So does that answer your question? Awesome. Okay, thank you for that.
The next question comes from Emily Zabo.
Thank you. Molly, I just had a follow-up question. So you mentioned your inadvertent, poor first impression with the water glass and using the restroom. So can you tell us how you recover from a poor first impression?
That is another great question. You know, I was in the first session this morning, the keynote session, and I saw a lot of people mentioning self-confidence, right? And the more self-confidence that we have, the easier it is to brush off those moments and laugh at ourselves. For me, it was enhancing my self-awareness, because the more I learned about myself, the easier it was to accept all the parts of myself, to accept that I'm going to make mistakes, and hopefully I also have those great moments when I can connect with people, because the world is filled with both negative and positive everywhere, right? So when I probably didn't recover from those moments very well when I was younger. I think that the more confidence that you gain, and I gained it by enhancing my self-awareness, the easier it was to laugh at myself. Do you admire those people who can laugh at themselves, like totally make mistakes and laugh at themselves? I do too. And I feel like I'm in this transition. I was there where I couldn't at all. And I'm slowly getting to the point where, okay, I'm feeling like, okay, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to walk out of the restroom with toilet paper on my shoe. And it's okay. And then you can just look at the other person and say, look what I just did. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's how I would recover, and that's how I would say that you can learn to recover, is by learning more about yourself. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Kara Delansky. How do you connect when the other person isn't interested in connecting?
Ooh, another good question. How do you connect with someone when that person is not interested in connecting with you? Remember earlier when we all raised our hands because we experienced those moments of stress and frustration because we're so caught up in what is going on in our world? Everyone has those moments, right? And so if you have an encounter with someone or an interaction with someone who is in that space and not interested in connecting, you just have to let them be. You can still maintain your own way of inviting an approachable first impression, saying, I'm here whenever you're ready, come on in, because it might be a moment, it might be a personality, it might be a culture, it might be, Jim Rohn said, there's only a handful of really nasty people out there. They just seem to get around a lot. So we don't run into a lot of nasty people, but a lot of people have those stressful moments when we're just like, no, not doing it today. Don't care about you. It's all about me, right? So just let them be, and if you run into them again, then hopefully you have another opportunity to connect. Good question.
Our next question comes from Sharon Stoughton.
I loved your presentation, Molly. Several times you mentioned that you enhanced your self-awareness. Is there anywhere that we can start if we want to enhance our self-awareness?
Yes, great question, Sharon. Thanks for asking. I do teach self-awareness, self-awareness workshops. So if you're interested in learning with me, send me an email. I'll add the email to the chat, or someone will. So send me an email if you're interested in pursuing that. If not, I will tell you, there's a lot of great resources online. My favorite, and I thought most thorough instruction that was free, was the LinkedIn Learning course. I've done a lot of different courses and I've learned from a lot of different people, but I really enjoyed the LinkedIn Learning course on developing self-awareness. So that is my tip for you, but thank you for adding my email. You can connect with me, and if you're interested in workshops, then we can work together in small groups to develop that self-awareness.
Molly, I have a question if we still have time.
Yes, Srikanth.
How do you interact with teenagers and create a first impression? Because I have a challenge interacting with my nieces and nephews.
Oh, good question. Srikanth, do you put yourself in their shoes? Do you remember what it was like to be a teenager?
I want to run away from the spot.
It's hard because we grow up and we get like overwhelmed with our own responsibility and taking care of them, right? And we forget that we were once teenagers. So my best advice, or the way that I do it, because I have a 15-year-old, is to go back to those moments when I was 15 and think, what was I dealing with? Now, he's easy because he's a boy and boys are easier than girls. I think I was dealing with a lot more when I was 15. But go back to his world, their world. Like, what was high school like? What kind of challenges did you have? So then you ask them questions that relate to their world. And I like to make them think. I like to make people think. And so I'm always asking the why question for teenagers. Frequently they don't have the answer, but it makes them think. And that might be something that is stimulating for them.
Thank you.
I love it.
I think we are at 12:12. So we want to acknowledge our presenter for such an outstanding presentation in helping us how to create a first impression. On behalf of District 10 Toastmasters, we would like to thank you for your participation and evaluation of our presenter.
Thank you, Srikanth. And I would like to say, because this was the first of 3 parts, if you're interested in learning about those second 2 parts, send me an email and I will keep you in mind for when I get those up and running. But it was such a pleasure and an honor to share this with you today. Thank you for your participation and especially for your feedback. And to our wonderful moderator and Zoom host, I have to give a quick shout out for those of you who are still on. Dan Minder, thank you so much, because I sent all kinds of last minute requests to him and I know he was working hard all weekend. So thank you, Dan. Shout out to you. All right, everybody enjoy the rest of your day.
Nice job, Molly.
Thanks
for that. That was awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.